Hello everyone, how are you all? Here we are again with another exciting session, and I know you all are very excited for this session. And today's session was really requested from a lot of students. This was one of the most awaited and most requested sessions on our platform. Uh, we were getting a lot of queries and requests for the resume building and resume review guidance. So we tried to organize this session for building the best version of your resume, and we wanted to provide the best content to our students. That's why we have two amazing personalities with us from Fangpath. So today we have Puneet, who is an ML engineer at Apple, and Rohit, who is senior software engineer at Microsoft. So along with this, they are also mentors at Fangpath, where they guide thousands of youngsters and provide them a path to land in their dream job. Along with this, they are already working in companies like Apple, Microsoft. So what what else could have been better than this? That you all are getting guidance from people who are already working at tech giants like this. So today's session is really going to be very awesome. You all are going to be enjoying this session and get a lot of insights about resume building. In today's session, we will be looking into the tips and tricks to make an awesome resume, important elements we should add in a successful resume, do's and don'ts, preferable platforms for making a good resume, insights about a resume shortlisting process. So if you have any queries and doubts in your mind regarding resume making, this session is just for you. Other than this, if you still had any doubt or myths in your mind, you can just float your questions and doubts in the live chat. Puneet and Rohit will be going to address those questions at the end of the session. Puneet and Rohit, show is all yours. You can continue.
Cool. Thank you, Ekta. Can you please bring our screen live? Great. Thank you, Ekta.
Thank
Guys,
you.
so as Ekta mentioned, this is a collaboration between Fangpath and Code for Cause, and me and Rohit are here, on behalf of this collaboration as mentors and basically volunteering our time to do this. So the topic for today, as Ekta kindly mentioned, is building the best version of your resume and why resume review is important. And we will cover, various topics today regarding resumes and so on. And yes, please do ask your questions in the comment, and we will answer it towards the end. So, I'll introduce a little bit about myself and then I'll let Rohit. But as Ekta already mentioned, I am currently working full time at Apple. And prior to this, I was a hiring manager at a unicorn startup. Even more in the past, I've worked at some big name companies like Amazon, DE Shaw, and Barclays. And why I decided to, get involved with this whole resume reviewing concept is because as a manager, I actually reviewed, more than 500 resumes as a part of my job. And I realized, some of the common shortcomings in resumes. And figured out, the tips and tricks to improve resumes and what I would like to see. And talking to other people, such as managers, engineers, and HR, I really understood the process very well and also what it takes to build an awesome resume.
Cool.
Rohit,
I'll introduce
yeah,
myself.
go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I cut yourself there. So, guys, I'm Rohit. I'm a software engineer in Microsoft right now. And prior to this, I was an SD in Amazon. And as a part of these organizations, I got a chance to take some interviews, like for coding interviews for the candidates. They're supposed to come onto the team or a different team, and I've been a part of 100 plus interviews, and I've worked with hiring managers and HR to figure out which candidates basically I look at their resumes and figure out what are their mistakes, and sometimes we just have a talk with three of us and we just say, okay, we're not going to continue with the candidates. But then I realized there are some common mistakes that every candidate starts making. So then I heard about Fangpath. They contacted me, and I feel it's a good opportunity to help everyone. So that's how I got associated with them, and now I'm here.
Great. Thanks, Rohit. And so, to give you guys an overview of the session today, which I think Ekta beautifully described, but in my own short words, we're going to talk about what is Fang Plus, because, as the organization is called Fangpath, we get a lot of questions about, oh, is this only for Fang companies? So, we will talk about that. We will go very deep into resume building and various aspects of that. We will follow up with how Fangpath can help you, and finally end with a open-ended Q&A round. So again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We will try to address as many as possible.
Mhm.
So first, I want to ask everyone in the audience, what are some of your dream companies? So please just post them in the chat on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, and let's see what some of your answers are. We'll
Give
give
it a
a
couple
few
of minutes.
seconds. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's delayed on YouTube, so we'll give it a couple seconds. So I see somebody saying Cognizant, Google, okay, Amazon, Apple, OpenAI, another Google, lots of Googles,
Google
Microsoft,
is good.
Amazon,
Yeah, and
great,
Microsoft.
Microsoft, Apple,
Nice.
Google, Facebook, Apple, great, Amazon, TCS, good, good, thank you
Atlassian is
guys.
a very
Or
good company. Yeah.
Atlassian, Oracle, Uber, amazing, amazing.
Nice.
So people really want to work at these big companies, right? And the reason we asked is because, in our opinion, all of these companies you guys have mentioned are Fang Plus companies. And
Great.
when we refer to Fang Plus companies, we are basically saying Fang companies and other big tech companies, hot startups, top consulting firms like Deloitte, McKinsey, EY, and finance companies like Barclays and other banks, top analytic companies like EXL, ZS, etc., famous core companies like L&T, Maruti, etc. And the basic common denominator between all these is high quality work, high quality peers, and high quality pay. If any company satisfies these three requirements, then we consider these to be Fang Plus companies in our definition of it. Um, so yeah, definitely people are still posting companies that they want to work on.
I'll add
So,
an
guys,
additional point. Sorry,
yeah,
if I can.
go ahead.
These are the important factors, but like campus lifestyle and the way you guys have the amenities in the on the campus of these companies, they are also very good. So another
Yeah,
point to be an
definitely.
advantage.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so again, if you're targeting any of these companies and all the companies mentioned in the chat, then this webinar is definitely for you guys.
Hmm.
Also, Fangpath works with students across the globe, and some of the companies that Fangpath has worked in, or sorry, some of the universities that Fangpath has worked in are listed here on the slide, such as Georgia Tech, IIT Kanpur, Vellore Institute of Technology, Carnegie Mellon University in the US, SRM, Singapore Management University, and Duke University. This is just to give you guys an idea that, if you're currently a student and you're listening into this webinar, then you are in the right hands.
Hmm.
Students from all these universities have trusted Fangpath, so definitely please stay tuned. So let's kind of get into the nitty gritties here. Let's start with some myths and facts about resumes. The first myth is that resume selection is a matter of luck. We've heard this a lot, and Rohit, I know you've also heard this one. But the
Hmm.
fact is that resume selection is a process, and you can learn to ace this process. And we will be sharing this process with you guys in today's webinar. And we hope that you learn also with us how to ace this process.
Hmm. And if I can add something here,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm probably one of those who actually witnessed this. Uh, I learned it the hard way, but you guys have a chance to learn it the easy way. So stay tuned.
Yeah. The next myth is the one we hear the most often, is that if my resume is not selected, I'm not a good candidate, I don't possess skills, etc. Blaming yourself basically. The fact is, you may have the right skills, you may have the right qualifications, and you may even be experienced, but your resume may still fail the screening process. And this is just the sad truth, right? Because it's not you. You might have everything correct, but you didn't build your resume in the right way, and hence you failed the screening process. And again, we'll show you the process, and hopefully you can learn from this and improve your resume based on that.
Mhm.
The third myth that we want to tackle today is that people say, especially to Fangpath and other organizations like this, which are offering professional reviews, is that professional resume review is a waste of time and money. But the fact is, and we've proven it time and again, that resume review is the difference between no responses at all and getting a top job. And Rohit and me know this very well. Like, people that have been helped with professional reviews have received interviews from various top companies. So coming on to the first part of the information that we want to give you today is about the applicant tracking system, also known as ATS. You would have heard this term in passing, and if not, you'll learn about it today. But ATS systems are software databases for job applicants. So whenever you apply to a company, your resume is put into this ATS system and parsed by this system. 99% of Fortune 500 companies use ATS, and Fortune 500 companies are the 500 largest companies, or something of that sort by size. All of them use ATS systems. And the sad truth is that 98% of candidates get filtered out at this step of the process itself. And we will be sharing the process in the next slide. But basically, as a candidate, it's kind of said that ATS is your biggest enemy until you know how it works. And we will show you now how it works. And so in this resume selection process, again, this is all on offline. So if you're applying to jobs, directly through the job portal or things like that, you would go through this process. For on campus, if you're a student, then it's a slightly different process, which we will explain soon. So first, you submit your resume online to the job portal. Your resume is put into the ATS system. The ATS system parses your resume, tries to extract good information from it. Example, it will look for your name, where you're located, which companies you have worked at, things like that. Then, for a specific job, for a specific role, someone will search by keywords in this particular ATS system. And then your resume will be stack ranked with other candidates. What stack ranking means
Mhm.
is, there is an absolute rank. So if there's 10 candidates, the best match is rank 1, the worst match is rank 10. And if there's 1,000, then it's 1 to 1,000, and so on. So you will have an absolute ranking depending on how many candidates there are. The next step in the process is that a recruiter, who is a human, will screen some of the top candidates and look at their resumes and, maybe give them an initial call, or, the process varies from company to company, but the recruiter is doing some screening on their end. Then the recruiter will handpick certain resumes and give it to the hiring manager for them to look at. The hiring manager will use their own discretion to basically select a resume that they feel is fit for an interview. And this is kind of the overall process. And what's important to note here is that, things are based on keywords, and there are multiple humans involved in the process. And actually, the recruiter only spends on an average of 8 to 10 seconds on this particular process. And on campus, since I think many of you are students, as I can see from the YouTube comments, is
Mhm.
that resumes are still very important. This is because on campus, especially in India, where on campus placements are conducted, shortlisting is based on a point-based system where you are getting points for each item you mention in your resume. And every company has a different way of creating this point-based system. But generally, things like your past experiences, your projects, position of responsibility, etc., are used in order to determine how many points you will get. Also, the interviewers have huge bias towards awesome resumes in the shortlisting process because, again, the points are given to your resume. And so if your resume is made in an awesome way, then the interviewer will have bias towards you. If you do have a good resume, there is less focus on technical assessment, which we have heard and seen from experience. For example, let's say there's two resumes. One says absolutely nothing, and I have to take an interview for this candidate. I might ask a slightly harder question so that I can determine if this candidate is qualified or not. Versus in the other scenario, the interviewer might ask, for an awesome resume, they understand the projects, so they might talk about the projects for about 30 minutes, and then in the remaining 30 minutes, ask a technical question that helps provide additional information. Finally, your resume helps you stand out amongst the crowd, even in your campus. And in very experiential cases, you can also circumvent GPA cutoffs if your university has one, simply based on your resume.
If I'm not wrong, Puneet, this is your personal experience, the last one.
Yeah, it is. It is my personal experience, and I know other people also have had similar experience. But if you have a really cool resume, really cool projects, if you just walk up to whoever the recruiter is on that day and show them your resume, they might be interested in bringing you for an interview despite your GPA doesn't meet whatever criteria your university has set. And the next step here is, what is the elements that make a successful resume? So we do have a couple of things that we suggest you put in your resume to make it successful in the average scenario. First is your basic details like name, contact, your LinkedIn profile if you have one, and your current location. It's been observed that I think 96 or 97% of recruiters actually look at your LinkedIn profile. So that's become very important nowadays. Also, put in an objective or summary statement. Either one is fine in our opinion, but basically it provides context of why you have the rest of your resume. Then do mention your skills such as technical skills. If you have work experience, internships, volunteering experience, mention that. Next step is education. So needless to say, put your education if you've studied somewhere. And last but not least is projects. So any sort of projects you have done during your education, please put that in. And finally, if you have awards and recognition such as hackathons or participation in any campus activities, then you do want to add that to your resume. I also want to share that there is a completely free template that is available. It's on overleaf.com. You can search for Fangpath simple template and you will find it. And hopefully the link will be in the bio of this video after the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and Rohit has put the link for Ekta to share with everyone.
And one more, I think I'll add something on this slide, right? So
Yeah.
there are a couple of more sections that
Uh-huh.
you can also put like leadership and volunteer work, extracurricular. Those are, we have seen that time to time in resumes, and those are important for certain roles. So if you have those, you have a reason for it. Feel free to put those as well.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So the Fangpad template link is also on screen, and hopefully you guys will get it in the description and the YouTube chat as well. So this template actually covers all of the points we've mentioned here, and it will
Yeah.
give you a good baseline on how to build your resume. So let's talk about some do's and don'ts. And I do see lots of comments from people, should I put this in my resume? Should I say that? And things like that. So let's talk about do's and don'ts, and hopefully this will answer many of these questions. The first thing I want to say is that do tailor your keywords based on the job description. And you should ideally do this for every single job description that you're applying to. But at the same time, don't overuse keywords in your resume. What that means is, if the job description says you need Java engineers, then don't put Java 100 times in your resume. So because even if you pass the ATS system, the humans will catch this and possibly reject your resume for trying to game the system.
Mm-hmm.
The next do is that use simple templates. And we've shared a template already with you guys. That is one of the simpler templates that you can use. And it also is ATS compliant, which means that ATS systems will be able to parse this template correctly. And don't use fancy templates with images or fancy fonts or lots of colors and all these sort of things. It's totally
Yeah.
not required. Keep it simple, and sometimes less is more. The next do is focus on your achievements and strengths. Whenever you write your resume, you want to come across as an achiever. Even if you've done an internship project that you may not think is very important, showcase what you achieved to that project. Showcase the strengths that you came out with on the other side, and this will really help your resume shine. What you shouldn't do is add personal details like your age, gender, marital status, and other things. Rohit, have you seen any other crazy things on the resume?
Mm, yeah, I think they have put their Instagram for some reason, and
Oh, really?
hobbies. And hobbies. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, but there's no reason to put your Instagram link on your resume, guys, unless you are a social media star and you want to highlight that.
Definitely.
Yeah. The last do is check your spelling and grammar, right? Even the slightest grammatical mistake can be caught by the reader, and it comes across as, not paying attention to details. Also use full acronyms and titles, and we will show you an example of what we mean by using full acronyms and titles.
Cool.
Yeah,
We are seeing some good questions in the chat, so guys, we
that's
can
great.
tackle them in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So let's do some case studies. I know I just saw one comment actually about how to make the descriptions most effective. And so we'll show that through these case studies where, we've taken a before resume of somebody and we will transform it through various processes and finally show you the final resume. So to start with, this is a computer science student seeking a software engineering internship. They had a 2-page resume, and we helped them bring it down to 1 page in a very good format. You can't read it right now, but we will highlight some important points. So before, this person did not receive any interview calls at all. Um, and right now they are actively applying to various companies. So we will hear back from this candidate, hopefully on how it went for them. But as we said, it was 2 pages long before. Now it's a single page. It had pretty poor formatting. You may be able to tell here there's like a table and there's lots of empty space in the middle. Um, but finally, it had good formatting and it was focusing more on impact and keywords. And previously, it was also extremely boring to read. There was no details and no
Mm-hmm.
keywords. Now, every time someone sees this full resume, the first word that comes to mind is excellence. So here's one very specific example of how this resume was transformed. So this person did a data analysis internship at a company, and they had written 3 points about their resume. First, analyze data generated by BTS. When I read this statement, I think, what is BTS? The only BTS I know is that Korean pop band, but I don't know what BTS these guys are, this person is referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, But then the second point they said is, okay, well, identified the BTS status based on data attributes. Okay, well, again, I still don't know what BTS is, and I don't know what data attributes they use to identify which type of status. It's very unclear. And finally, they said dashboard for statistical data representation. Great. So they made some dashboard to represent some statistical data, but I still have no idea what they did. And also, if you notice, the right side of this resume is pretty empty. So they didn't mention things like where they did this internship or how long they did it. They just mentioned the company's
Correct.
name, which we've blurred out for obvious reasons. So when we worked with this candidate through the resume review process, we, talked to them and we understood what they did. And this is the final point that they had written in their resume. Analyze data generated by base transfer stations, BTS, to classify it into various types based on different attributes using HDFS, Hive, Cloudera Quick-Start VM, and performed query analysis on a dataset of 200K samples. So this actually covers the first two bullet points. But what it now tells us is the full form of BTS. So we know it's Base Transfer Station and not the Korean pop band. It's also telling us which technologies they've used, such as HDFS, Hive, etc. And then regarding this data that they're talking about, they're also telling us that it has 200K samples, and that's how big this data set is. So it gives us a clear idea of what this person actually did.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to their second point, which was previously just dashboard for statistical data representation, now they're saying that they've built a web app using JSP and visualized generated data using Chart.js, D3.js, and Maps JavaScript API. So reading this point, I can say, okay, this person also has web development knowledge and has, experience with various projects or various libraries such as Chart, D3, and Maps. So this is the kind of things that when you put in your resume, it makes it very clear to the reader what you did, how you did, and what the impact was. Any points to add here, Rohit?
No, I think we covered almost everything, right? And the acronym part that you we mentioned earlier, this is the clear example. You cannot understand anything from the previous whatever they written, and now the way he transformed their resume. Look at, we can understand basically what they really did, right? So this is the things that I work with when hiring managers and figure out, okay, I don't understand this resume, so I don't know if I can take their interview. So very
Yeah,
important. Basically, we should understand what you have written in the resume. So good
definitely.
example.
So the next one is a similar student who was seeking product manager roles. And in this particular case, it was a one-page resume before and after also. But even in your screen, which it may look really small, you'll notice the before resume, the font size is very small compared to the one on the right. And this is a problem because there's just way too much information to read. So before they had size 8 font, and after we worked with them to reduce the content and made it a size 11 font. They also had way too much detail for every one of their bullets. And they mostly actually had a consulting background, which was not relevant for product management roles. So what we did was we helped this candidate optimize their keywords for product management roles and only keep the relevant details in a sleek and easy to read format. In short, their resume was a mess, and we helped them portray excellence. And of course, this is a great success story because this candidate received an interview call from Amazon for the role that they were seeking.
Hmm.
Again, coming to kind of a example of what they wrote before and what they wrote after will show that. But with this particular candidate, because their background was not so relevant, we also helped them with a summary section. And in this summary, this candidate finally wrote, cross-functional program manager with experience in leading top-line growth programs for technology firms, led partnerships program to increase 40% revenue. Now, what I like about this particular summary is it kind of hooks you in, right? It says, I'm cross-functional, I'm a program manager, I have some experience in leading top-line growth programs, and I have it for technology firms. So without telling me what it is, they've told me something interesting. Now I'm interested in reading more. Then they also go further and say, led partnerships program to increase 40% revenue. So this is interesting because now I want to know, oh wow, like they did something and revenue increased 40%. maybe I should see what they did and maybe they can increase my revenue by that much too. So that's why I think the summary is very, very exciting and good to have on the resume. Also note that even though they said they increased 40% revenue, what that means is if you start with 1,000 rupees now in revenue and this candidate helps you get it to 1,400 rupees, 400 rupees on 1,000 rupees is still 40%. So they didn't tell you the exact amount, they just told you the percentage increase, which you can also do in your resumes depending on what metric you're trying to show. So before, one of the things they wrote in their resume was implemented end-to-end customer acquisition strategy using, some keywords that they put in to streamline digital marketing of SMEs. Again, SME, we know it means subject matter expert, but not everyone may know that. So again, this, doesn't tell us exactly what they did. It's just putting some keywords there, and it's not really giving me any information. After going through the review process, this candidate changed their bullet point to say, drove a customer acquisition program involving marketing, operations, and strategy, resulting in 10% quarterly customer acquisition growth, managed delivery of cross-functional global team, augmenting productivity by 30%. Yeah. So again, these are some very quantitative metrics here. They're saying, okay, well, I talked to marketing, operations, and strategy teams. Whatever I did got 10% increase in growth and also increased productivity by 30% for this global team. So very, very crisp and to the point. So I think this is kind of the end of, what we wanted to say, but let's go through questions that people have and let's do our best to answer these, Rohit.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so there were a lot of questions, and but the webinar was so insightful and informative. So I reduced the questions to like 10% because most of the questions get
Okay.
answered during the webinar. But still, there are some questions which need your attention. So first of all, first question is about ATS. That people have some kind of myth in their mind that ATS accepts one column resume or two column resume. So which has a better chance of getting selected?
Yeah, I can answer this. So generally, it's preferred to have one column resume, and there's a reason for that, right? Is there are tons of ATS systems today, and some of them are very smart, some of them are very advanced. They can, parse these two column resumes. But we don't know which ATS is used by which company. So some company may be using an ATS which cannot parse two column resumes. And also, when you say two column resume, there's a certain way that it needs to be in order to be parsed. Many people who make their own templates, they don't make it well enough to be parsed correctly by any ATS. So, rule of thumb is why take risk in a thing where you don't need to? If you can just use a one column template and be safe, why use a two column template and be sorry?
Absolutely, I agree.
Great. Okay, the second question is like when we are mentioning our project details. So, what should we add? Like, important thing is about tech stack and thought behind the project motivation or a target audience or something like this. So, what important key points we should mention while mentioning our projects in the resume?
Yeah, Rohit, you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take this one. So when you are describing a project, so there are three important things. First, what you did.
Mm.
Second, how you did. And third, what if there was any impact, right? And of course, you should also mention what tools you used. Okay, so uh, I'm gonna take some sort of example, like a website. Okay, so I built a website using React.js and I put it on my university's page, and I have 50 plus views. So in this, basically, you told what you did. You made a website. You used React, and then website, and where you got 50 plus views or 500 plus views. So I basically that's mostly what I'm looking for. In the project experience. In work experience, there's something else, but for the project, this is good enough.
Okay. Uh, Another question is, should we add the courses or certifications we have done in our resume or not? Or like we shouldn't, we avoid?
Yeah, I can take that. Actually, it's very simple. So,
Hmm.
if you guys actually see the template link that Ikta shared, there is a space in that template for the relevant coursework. And definitely, especially as a student, it's very important to add, because it shows to the interviewer or the recruiter that you have some fundamental and basic knowledge of the field, right? So, for example, the most common and easiest courses to add are like algorithms, data structure, database, software engineering. Adding these courses does give you a boost to your resume. And if you're not from computer science background and you're interested in software roles, then again, you want to mention courses like these that you may have taken to make yourself relevant to that role.
Okay.
And I think same goes for
And
certificates. My bad, sorry. Same
okay,
thing goes for certificates. If they are relevant, put them in your resume. Mhm.
okay.
Yeah,
Uh, so you have added things for on-campus placements, but our audience is like more willing for the off-campus placements, and most of them are from colleges which don't have a good on-campus placement opportunities. So can you have some like points or tips and tricks for them? For them, like what should they add?
definitely. So I think the first part of whatever we covered, right, which is what is the ATS system, how ATS is shortlisted, and all the do's and don'ts, and even the template, those are all applicable for off-campus scenario, right? Everything is pretty much the same off campus and on campus, except in on campus, the shortlisting process is slightly different. So everything you've heard today actually is equally applicable to off campus. And for off campus, one thing you want to make sure is you optimize your resume for every job you're applying to. So don't put the same resume for software engineering role and data scientist role, right? Try to make it different for each role.
Um, Very well answered. Thank you, Puneet. Another question is that this question is repeated again and again by many students, that what we should focus more on, competitive programming or projects in our resume, or we can have like either of them.
Uh, I can start and probably you can add on to this. Okay. I think you basically need both. This is a very simple answer. Okay. You need competitive programming because you wanna try to pass the company's bar of like initial screening, and probably in the interviews they will ask you some competitive programming questions to solve. So in those, I would recommend you to practice those things, right? And but your projects is something that once it reaches to the manager, when they have like some sort of HR rounds, they try to understand you, what you can bring in, something unique. Those projects shows up, and those are very important at that point. So
Yeah. I think project is more important for getting your resume selected, and
mhm,
competitive programming is more important for getting you through the interview process.
easier way to say this. Yes. Hmm.
Um, should we mention our interpersonal skills as a part of a skill section in our resume?
I can take this one. So it really
Hmm.
depends on the type of role you're applying to. If you're applying to software role or something similar, then it's not required. In a software role or technical role, you can mention it through your job descriptions, right? You can say worked in team of 5 people or led a project or things like that. That will
Hmm.
showcase your interpersonal skills. But for a consulting role or other kind of less technical role, interpersonal skills become more important. So if you have skills or you want to showcase your skills, then definitely you can add that in your skills section.
Another question is, someone asked that I'm a totally fresher and I don't have experience like internship experience or working experience, and I want to apply for FAN. So what should I add in my resume? Like I should add mostly the projects or like,
Yeah. So I can take that, right? And this is not just for FANG companies, but in general in your resume. As a fresher who doesn't have any official work experience, the best thing you can do is first showcase your projects, showcase your courses that you have taken, and also get involved in some on-campus activities, right? Join a club, join a group, do something like that, and showcase that in your resume. It's very easy as a student to do such activities, even sports or anything of the sort. Just put it and put it on your resume. And obviously, companies are not, so harsh on first year students that, oh, you don't have any work experience, we cannot hire you. No, that's not how it works. Companies are aware of the fact that first and second year
Hmm.
students won't have that kind of experience.
Yeah, they have certain positions just for graduate students, so it's not like they're gonna take somebody who's experienced for that. So you have equal chances to get in.
Okay. One question was there that if I have an experience that is different from the post I'm applying for, like if I have a teaching like experience and I'm applying for an SDE post, so should I mention that internship experience or anything in the resume, or I should remove that from the resume?
I think it's definitely valid to keep it in your resume. I guess
Hmm.
the real question is, do you have something else to put that's more valuable, right? Let's say you have 4 internships, one of which is not relevant, but 3 are relevant. Then put the 3 which are relevant. But if that's the only internship you've done, then you put it in your resume and you try to
Hmm.
showcase whatever it is you learned. Either you learned some soft skills, or maybe you learned some SDE stuff. I don't know. But try to showcase best you can that this is what I did and this is what I got out of it.
Okay. If
Perfect.
someone has taken like talks and webinars through coding society or clubs in their college, or connected with some student organization, should they mention those things as experience in their resume?
I would not put it as experience, but
Yeah.
if you see the template that's been shared, there are sections for like extracurricular activities or projects and leadership, volunteering. Depending on what it is you did, you can put it in those sections, right? Um, so ideally, if you gave a talk, you can just put it as extracurricular activity and said, I gave a talk at so, and this is how many participants were present.
Okay. So the questions end here. Thank you, Puneet and Rohit, for this awesome session. And I think if there will be any leftover questions, people will connect with you both on Discord or the links you have mentioned. Thanks a lot.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you so much, Ekta, for hosting us.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks
so much for
everyone for
inviting us.
joining this session. Okay,
Yeah.
so we are going to end this session. Okay, bye
Yeah, bye
bye.
bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.